showed you the doors before. This is the one that has the most damage. So there's a crack here that we need to replace. There's a repair here that we're going to redo. There's some small cracks, a big crack here, and that's just the door skin. On the inside we have the holes that they made to get to the door hinges. We need to fill these back in. There are two small holes here which were used to mount something that wasn't original, so we're going to fill these in. There are some spider cracks around the mounting for the door handle, so we need to repair this. And then we have to completely repair the frame that was completely butchered to make this a wind down window. So this is the door that has quite a lot of work that needs to be done. So we'll start on this and hopefully it'll go quite smoothly, but it's a lot of work. I'll quickly show you how I've readied this. So all of the holes are beveled and ground into the fiberglass to give some strength to the repair. Underneath there are pieces of plexiglass with a little bit of duct tape on it to stop the fiberglass from sticking, and they're just propped up underneath this with some cardboard blocks just to keep this in place, that I have a surface to lay the new fiberglass on. As you see, I've pre-cut all of the repair pieces that I need, so I'll probably do 3 or 4 coats on this the first time, and then I'll let it dry. Also for the smaller repair sections, and of course the other door has the same problems with these holes, so we're going to repair this as well. So like on the other door, we're going to fill this in from underneath with a plate. Now we can fiberglass over it, so have a little bit of support underneath. And then we can take this away. This door isn't too bad. It has some holes that need to be filled and some star grazing, but all in all it's quite good, especially in comparison to the other door. The repairs on the doors are coming along. As you can see, this side is almost complete, so we have a nice straight edge, and then where the bottom line is here, we need to build up a little bit more to get this a little bit straighter and then radius the corner here. On the other door, this section is finished, and then we need to build up this quite a bit more to get a straight line across here, and then a slight bend, as you can see where I've marked the line. This is the rear of the door where the door lock goes, and as you can see there's a really big crack along this section and also on the front. This was completely filled in with some filler, and I've ground all of the filler out, so now I can repair this from the inside first and then from the front side as well. So we'll need a little bit of thickness on here, and just to make sure that this crack will remain stable once it's laid up. So we'll probably do a couple of coats in the deep, and then a few large repair sections on top, just to keep it all in. We've done some of the repairs on the rear, and while that's drying we can do some on the front. So you can see there's a really big crack here, and we already repaired this from the underside. Here's a crack here, and an old repair that we're going to redo on the bottom. We also need to fill in the holes where the mirrors were mounted, but that's just a small repair. We're also working on the doors. You can see that this is fixed, it's nice and smooth. This is going okay. We're going to need to fill this in. There's a section missing here, but we're going to get the correct shape. On this door, the shape is completely restored, so I'm quite happy with that. The door's upside down because we are filling in this hole here. You can see all the gray is actual duct tape that I taped on the outside. We're going to fill this back in from the inside for a first layer, and then we can rebuild the surface from the outside. So you can see that I patched it up using some duct tape just to have something to build off from. So we're going to lay some fiberglass from underneath, then we can work on from the outside. So the fiberglass repair from the inside has dried, so now we can remove the duct tape. As you can see, the hole has been filled in. It's quite sticky, but it's just the glue, the adhesive from the tape. Now we can clean this up from the outside, and then we can take a look on how we're going to try and recreate the flange that has been cut off from all the window frames. It won't be that easy, so we're going to take a look at the other door to see how it's made, and then we're going to try to fill this back in. So this is the right hand side door. As you can see, it still has the flange all the way around the window frame to put the window in. So I have a window here. This is a plexiglass window I bought from Banks, Europe Engineering. The window is warped a little bit, but originally it would have had seals in there, like so, that would keep them in place. I'm trying to go to the pop-out style window, so hinged in the front so that we can open it from the rear to get some air in. The way that I'm going to try and fix the other window frame is by using the window as a template. So to install it in place and hold it, and then using the actual window frame to bond some fiberglass to the back to get the flange back. If it will be that easy, I don't know. I'm going to try to mock it up, and otherwise I might have to use something to build up a flange so I can lay up some fiberglass. It's not that easy. The window frame on the other door has been completely cut out and it doesn't have much of a structure left, so I'm not quite sure how it will bond, but I'm going to take a look. So this is how it should look, and I'm quite happy that this door is okay, so that I know what it should look like. So we're going to put this to one side and then see if we can make the other window frame work. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to manage this because this window is warped as well, and I can't really keep it in one place without it coming loose on another one, and that's the entire problem with a warped window and not having a window frame to push against. So might have to try something else, just building a flange of some clay, or trying to fix this in position one side at a time so I can work my way around. If I have one flange I can clamp it to and then do the other three. So I'm going to have a think and see what I can come up with. But this is a job that I've been procrastinating because it's terrible. Okay, so what I found out works is I'm using paint sticks to transfer the dimensions of the original flanges onto the new door. So this is a paint stick which I chamfered the edges to conform to the door frame, and I wrapped this in duct tape and I've fractured it in a couple of places to make a bend in it, and this will fit in here, and then I'll clamp it down some more and I can fiberglass it from the rear to make a flange. So I'm going to do this side and the flange on the front of the window frame, and I'll do those two, and then maybe I can use the actual window to do the bottom and the top flanges because they're a little bit bigger. But we're going to try see how this works. If not, we'll have to find another way. But I'm liking the look of this, so we'll try to get a base from this, and we can see how far we're going to get. Try to replicate this flange. It's quite long. I have 2 paint sticks, one here and one here. You can see that I've chamfered the edge to fit in there, and this one. So the short one is okay, it's quite straight. It has to be. On the top you can see there's a little bend in there, so I'll probably fracture this afterwards. But I'm first going to tape these 2 paint sticks together, so I have one long flange, if you want to call it, and then we're going to try to fix it onto the other door frame. So I wrap the paint sticks in duct tape, so I have one long piece, and I can see I've broken it here, and this is the divide between the 2 pieces of wood. So this is okay from a flange standpoint, and we'll take it to this door. Now we have to try to fix it in place along this side of the flange. The thickness of the paint stick is about the same as the depth that we need for the flange, so that's handy. So we have to try to align this with the top of the door frame like this, and then we can fiberglass it from the rear. I've been struggling with some C-clamps, but in the end this is the easiest way to mount it. So I just put a layer of duct tape underneath. This one's long enough that it can clamp in between the window frame. So this one is taped from the front, and then it has some reinforcement to stop it from flopping out on the side with just a layer of duct tape around. I'll fiberglass the inside. Once the inside has been fiberglassed, I can remove this tape and then fiberglass to the edges. I'm now working on this top edge of the window frame. This is the last thing that I can do with my paint stick templates. I don't think it'll be able to do this with the bottom one, because it's very difficult to clamp it, and because it bends in so many different radiuses, it'll be difficult, but I'll be able to do the top quite easily, I think. So I'll do this one, then I can see if maybe I can figure something out for the bottom one, and otherwise I'll have 3 flanges to mount the window in, and then I can use the window to do the bottom one. The top one is in 2 sections, one here because it's quite straight, and then I have this one, and I sanded this out to conform to this edge a little bit, so I don't have any big gaps. So I'll wrap these paint sticks in duct tape, and then we'll tape this to the window frame. The reason I wrap these in duct tape is to firstly bond them together. Secondly, the fiberglass won't bond to the outside of the duct tape. It doesn't stick to it, and it will stick to wood, so otherwise we will not be able to remove the paint sticks afterwards. I'm getting ready to fiberglass all of these flanges in. You can see that I prepared all of these strips to fiberglass in the flanges. I made these with a torn edge so that the strands are frayed, and that's because you want to have them pliable to go into the corner. I just cut this straight because it's easiest. This will be the outside or the inside of the flange. These will have to be trimmed anyway, so no reason to have these edges frayed. On the other door I have to do the last of the repairs on this little corner. I have to build this up. We're getting the correct shape, but it needs a little bit more volume because it's our corner is rounded off. So I'm going to fiberglass this in. It will probably need another go after this, but we'll have the start of the flanges, and hopefully it will work, because it's a job that I wasn't expecting to liking, but it's turning out okay. It's working a lot easier than I thought, so hopefully we'll get these fiberglassed in, and I'll show you once the fiberglass is dried. first couple of layers of the fiberglass on the flanges has dried. You can see that I ground off the excess, I sanded it a little bit to make the flanges smooth with our paint mixing sticks. You can see that there are a couple of places where there isn't any fiberglass, so on here, and on here. And that's because these were the places where we used the duct tape to tape the flanges or the paint sticks to the door frame. So I removed these. Now we can lay this up so that we have one continuous flange on these three sides. We're also going to do the bottom flange, but to do that we first have to make like a mold or a pattern for the flange with our paint sticks. These are the three flanges that we already made. I'm going to leave the paint sticks on there for the moment. I'm going to lay up a few more layers and the few spots where we didn't have any flange at the moment. So we're going to leave this on, we're going to build the bottom flange, then we're going to lay it up again. Once we have a substantial amount of fiberglass all around, we can remove the paint sticks, and then we have to finish the front side of the flanges as well, either with fiberglass or fiberglass filler. We're going to see we probably need to fill in some small holes. I made a couple of pieces of wood to build up the flange. So because it's a really long one, we need quite a lot of pieces of wood all around. We had to break them up in small sections because there's a curve in it in this direction and also in this direction. So we're going to use all small pieces to build up the entire flange. I'm going to start using a bit of hot glue just to glue them in position. Once they're in position, we're going to completely strengthen everything with the duct tape again. But first I'm going to put some duct tape all around these paint sticks. Then we can glue them in place and try to make a flange out of it before we can lay up some fiberglass. Again, I put all of the pieces of paint stick on there. I wrapped all of the pieces of paint stick in duct tape and I numbered them. So now I'm going to start with the hot glue and try to position them so I can completely attach them to each other. During the last couple of weeks I've been adding layer and layer on these flanges. So they're not thick enough to be usable in the end, but I think that they're thick enough to remove the little wooden mixing sticks and see if we can trim it up a little bit, and then once that we can see if the flange is in the correct location, if it has worked, then we can finalize it by adding some strength and some thickness to it. I've trimmed the excess fiberglass and all the loose fibers. It's quite rough at the moment, but I trimmed it on the same level as the paint sticks, and I just removed the biggest loose fibers and fiberglass on the actual door. There's still a ridge there, but I'll clean this up. I've just got it rough, so it has some strength. Now we're going to turn the door over and remove all of the paint sticks and see if our little mold has worked. It looks quite good on the inside. Obviously the flange is way too wide at the moment. That's not really a problem. I'm hoping that it has enough strength and is bond to the door enough on the back side that we can remove the paint sticks and then reinforce it from the front. And once it's reinforced, we can clean it up all on the inside, make sure that we have a nice transfer from the door to the flange, and we're going to mimic the other door that it looks original. So we'll turn the door over and we'll take a look if we can remove the paint sticks. So on the first look, it actually looks quite good. There are some things that I knew that were happening, and you have some spaces in between here where the cloth couldn't get up because it was a really sharp ending point. So we're going to fill these in from the outside, but we'll trim it in. Well, it's actually quite strong. And I think that we're almost at the correct thickness. Only this section is a little bit thin at the moment. But I think most of the flanges are thick enough. Maybe this one and the front section of this one needs a few more layers. But all in all, I'm quite happy with it. Obviously it needs trimming. It needs finishing off on the inside and the outside. So I'm going to remove all of the glue residue and think about it, what's going to be my next step. I've measured the flange on the original door over there, and the flange should be about 12 millimeters, so about half an inch. So I measured it out, I've drawn a line, so now I'm just going to use my Dremel with a cut-off wheel just to cut off the excess flange. Once that it's all been cut out, we can thin the flange in some places and reinforce it from the in and outside to make sure that it's all one complete section. Well, these are out, so we'll quickly cut through this little corner, and then our flanges are the correct width. If we can take a look at the original door, we can see that the flanges are the same width. So it's really narrow. Then we can sand the new flanges down to make sure that the step from the window frame to the flange is the same thickness. So this section. And once we've sanded the new door to the correct thickness, then we can fill in the gaps with some fiberglass filler. I've sanded the flanges smooth all the way around. I've also made sure that this step between the edge of the door frame and the little flange, that this lip is 6 millimeters all the way around. So now what we see that there are some gaps in between our flange and our door frame. And that's just some air pockets from fiberglassing from underneath, and we're going to fill these all in with fiberglass filler. So we're just going to mix up some fiberglass filler and then fill the gaps in all the way around. There are some low spots on the flanges which we're also going to fill in, and then we can sand it off to make sure that it's really nice and smooth all the way around. The steps will be all gone. So we'll mix it up, put it in, and then we'll let it dry. Once that the fiberglass filler has dried all the way around, the flange will be a lot sturdier than it is now because all of the gaps will be gone, and then we can make it thicker again and reinforce it from underneath to make sure it is nice and smooth all the way around. I've continued working on the door, and at the moment we're quite close to being finished. You saw me filling in the low spots on these flanges on the front, and I've sanded these back down, so most of the holes that were between the flange and the window frame are completely gone now. I'll still need a second application of the fiberglass filler to fill in some low spots and in the corners a little bit, but the flange is really stiff at the moment. The height is almost there, but we're really close. We can fit the window in the frame to see if we've done all right. And you can see that it fits in really nicely. So I'm quite happy with how this turned out. It was one of the jobs that I was dreading to start, but in the end it was a little bit simpler than I anticipated. I've sanded away all of the excess fiberglass on the inside, so now we have a pretty nice transition between the window frame and the flange. It will need some fiberglassing to make the flange a bit thicker in some places, and afterwards it will need some filler to get it to shape nicely. But the bulk of the work is already done on this door, so now it's the finishing, and I'm pretty sure this will turn out quite well. This is the original door for reference, so you can see that this section is really nice and smooth, and then we have a 90-degree bend where the flange is, and that's almost all the way around. But with a little bit of work, the new door will look the same as this one, so that won't be an issue. So I'll continue working on the door and I'll show you the finished product. I finished repairing the door frame on this door. You can see that this is the one with the original lip, and this is the lip that I made. It's about the same. The only difference is that this lip is a little bit thinner than this one. Now I don't think that this will actually matter because it will have a seal on there. I might try to make it a little bit thicker again, but it's quite thick, so it's a couple of millimeters. This one's a little bit thicker, but that doesn't really matter. So you can see that it has the same width all around. It seals very nice against the door frame, and it's smooth on the inside. So this will make sure that our pop-out windows will seal. I finished everything with some fiberglass filler in the end to get all of the little holes out there. So it will need a little bit of finishing before painting, but structurally it's repaired. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but I'm glad that this is a job that is finished. So now both of the doors are completely repaired. The only thing that we're going to do is we're going to cover everything with some fiberglass tissue just against the spider cracking, but we'll do that in the next video. So this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments, just post them below, and I hope I'll see you next time. Goodbye.